and make plans to attend one of our upcoming events. Our next Altadena Town Hall is Thursday, November 6th, 4 to 6 p.m. at Victory Bible Church in Pasadena. We're going to interrogate SoCal Edison's settlement fund and see what's really going on with this fire recovery program. And our KBLA Talk 1580 Community Health and Wellness Fair is Saturday, November the 8th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here in Lemert Park at Catch at Audubon Middle School. All the details about these upcoming events can be found at our website, KBLA1580.com. So thanks again to all those who supported the Left Coast Forum, and a special thanks to our partners this year: the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, Partnership for Growth, UTLA, LA Care Health Plan, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and the Liberty Hill Foundation.
We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the boy where the business is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent, joining you live from Los Angeles, live from the NAACP Hollywood Bureau on this election eve. In our second hour, we'll be talking to Dominic Whitehead, the chief of field and membership here at the NAACP, about all the work that is afoot on this election eve and beyond. In just a few minutes in this hour, we'll be talking to Alan Orr, who is our resident immigration expert. But first things first, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of our leaders, learners, and listeners that came out this weekend to hear from former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. She was here in Los Angeles doing a book talk. I was happy to moderate that conversation where she opened up a little bit more on her time in the White House and her perspective on what's next, not just for her, but for all of us. And so I'll be sharing more about the insights from that interview in due time. But I want to thank all the folks that came out to participate in that, including our very own Tavis Smiley. It was great to see him there. Also, I want to say thank you to all of the folks who came out to the NAACP town hall that was here last night on Sunday night here at the NAACP Hollywood Bureau. We had a very spirited conversation about Proposition 50. We made it our business to separate the fact from the fiction. When it comes to Proposition 50, this is a reminder that this is election eve. And if you haven't voted by mail, it's not too late. Election day is the final day that you can drop off your ballot here in California. And for folks who are voting in other crucial states, this election season, get out there and get it done. Get out there and get it done. Exercise your right, exercise your voice. Let's get this thing done. We can't build a more perfect union if we don't vote. It's at odds. And so with that, I want to transition to the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. There's a lot afoot. But kicking us off, you flying anywhere anytime soon? I know I'm flying to the East Coast before the end of this week, and I'm paying extra close attention to what's happening in our nation's airports. Chances are you are as well. The Associated Press is asking the question, what do you do if your flight is delayed or canceled during this government shutdown? Well, the U.S. government shutdown has now dragged on for over a month, and shortages of air traffic controllers are straining operations, with flight disruptions piling up nationwide. Staffing shortages have caused flights delayed at a growing number of airports in recent weeks. Among the latest disruptions, Newark Airport in New Jersey experienced delays of 2 to 3 hours on Sunday. And busy hubs like George Bush International Airport in Houston, Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, and Chicago O'Hare are also seeing dozens of disruptions over the weekend. Just this afternoon, more delays related to staff shortages were being reported at 3 Texas airports, including both airports in Dallas and Austin. The longest delays were at Love Field, where the delays extended over an hour. Long security lines last for several hours were also being reported at some of the airports across the country. And so make sure that you're building in extra time as you travel across the country. And, I would actually go out on a limb and say, if you don't have to travel, don't do it. Don't put yourself through that if you don't have to do it. If you do have to do it, show up as early as you can so that you get to your destination wrapped in your right mind. And speaking of staying wrapped in your right mind, a lot of folks continue to be unnerved about the future of SNAP and people's ability to access their SNAP benefits. The Trump administration has told a judge it will partially fund SNAP benefits using contingency funds. NBC News reporting that the Trump administration said in court filings today that would use contingency funds to provide partial SNAP benefits in November, after a judge just this past Friday ordered the Department of Agriculture to disperse funding for the program. The administration said that it would use all $4.65 billion in contingency funds, which will cover about half of each eligible household's benefits this month. The administration said it would need at least $4 billion in additional government funds to provide full SNAP benefits, also known as food stamps. And while the administration said that it considered using funds for the Agriculture Department Section 32 funds, the White House ultimately decided that those funds, quotes, must remain available to protect full operation of child nutrition programs throughout the fiscal year instead of being used for SNAP benefits. And so the filing noted that because the administration was using the contingency funds, there would be no remaining funds for new SNAP applicants, disaster assistance, or as a cushion against the potential catastrophic consequences of shutting down the SNAP entirely. And so there will be some partial benefits, but you heard the administration sort of spell out what this means and the world according to them. Unsure whether or not there are any emerging suits that challenge that application of the law, but we'll be sure to keep you posted. In other news, it is worth noting that overseas right now, Axios is reporting that the U.S. is seeking UN approval for Gaza security forces with a very broad 2-year mandate. The U.S. has sent several UN Security Council members a draft resolution today for the establishment of an international force in Gaza for a duration of at least 2 years. This is a big scoop from Axios today. And you may be wondering, well, why does this matter? Why should we care about this right now? Well, the draft resolution, which was designated sensitive but unclassified, would give the U.S. and other participating countries broad mandate to govern Gaza and provide security through the end of 2027 with the possibility of an extension after that. The draft resolution will be the basis for negotiations over the coming days between UN Security Council members, with the goal of voting to establish it in the coming weeks and deploying the first troops to Gaza by January. So there will be U.S. troops on the ground, and the U.S. will play what looks to be a significant role in the governance of Gaza. Did you know that? I'm not sure if a lot of people knew that. I'm not sure if the American people signed up for that, but that is what is going on. We'll continue to share more as information becomes available. But back here in the U.S., if you have student loans, listen up. NPR is reporting that public workers could be denied loan forgiveness if cities defy Trump. That's what a new lawsuit is alleging. The cities of Albuquerque, New Mexico, Boston, Chicago, and San Francisco are suing the Trump administration over changes it plans to make to the popular Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, otherwise known as PSLF. Well, the lawsuit, which also includes the nation's two largest teachers unions and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, comes just less than a week after the U.S. Department of Education published a rule change to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Apparently, effective July 1st, 2026, the department says that the change will allow it to deny loan forgiveness to workers whose government or nonprofit employers engage in activities with a substantial illegal purpose. The job of defining, quotes, substantial illegal purpose will fall not to the courts, but to the Education Secretary. You might remember that the Public Student Loan Forgiveness was created by Congress in 2007 and signed into law by then-President George W. Bush to cancel the federal student loan debt of borrowers who spend a decade working in public service, including teaching, nursing, and policing. But we're watching this well-intentioned law be perverted, in my opinion, right before our very eyes. When we come forward, we're switching gears. We'll be joined with our resident immigration lawyer and expert, Alan Orr, and get his take on the recent headline that's gone viral about a U.S. citizen shot from behind as he warned ICE agents about children gathering at a bus stop. We'll get his views on that and more when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, live from the NAACP Hollywood Bureau.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
California, this is your moment. The special election is November 4th, and your vote helps decide your future, your community, and your state. Drop your ballot at a secure drop box. Visit an early vote center or mail it. Your participation powers democracy. Every ballot makes a difference. Tell a friend to do the same. Sign up at where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov to track your ballot. Make your voice count. Don't delay. Vote today. A message from the California Secretary of State.
I'm Scott Hansen, host of NFL Red Zone. Lowe's knows Sundays hit different when you earn them. We've got you covered with outdoor power equipment from Cobalt and everything you need to weatherproof your deck with Trex decking. Plus, with lawn care from Scott's and, of course, Pit Boss grills and accessories, you can get a home field advantage all season long. So get to Lowe's, get it done, and earn your Sunday. Lowe's, official partner of the NFL.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right? It doesn't clean as well.
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, let me make an announcement.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Stop paying for watered-down detergents. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
On Thursday evening, November 6th, you're invited to the next KBLA Talk 1580 Altadena Town Hall meeting. This time, we're convening at Victory Bible Church, 1497 North Hill Avenue in Pasadena. The town hall will once again be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580 from 4 to 6 p.m. on Thursday, November 6th. But you're invited to join us in person for this urgent and necessary community conversation. The theme for this Altadena Eaton Canyon Fire Town Hall is Understanding the Wildfire Recovery Compensation Fund. The primary focus of this gathering is to inform residents about Southern California Edison's newly launched Wildfire Recovery Compensation Program and provide clarity on eligibility and the claims process. There are plenty of questions to be asked, and only KBLA Talk 1580 has the right moderators to ask the tough questions, the right stakeholders and community activists to share their insights, and we have confirmed the participation of corporate executives from Southern California Edison to answer our queries. So be sure to join us at Victory Bible Church in Pasadena, 1497 North Hill Avenue on Thursday, November 6th. The event is free and open to the public, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. That's KBLA1580.com. Light refreshments will be served immediately following the live town hall. This KBLA Talk 1580 Altadena Rising Town Hall is brought to you by the Black Freedom Fund.
National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, joining you live from the NAACP Hollywood Bureau, where we're now in conversation with Alan Orr. He is the founder of Orr Immigration Law. He is our resident immigration legal expert, and we are delighted to have you here. Welcome back to the show, Alan.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you for being here. For folks who are less familiar, there are a number of folks who may not be tracking this as closely, but the LA Times is reporting that Carlos Jimenez was pulled over to warn a group of federal agents that they would wrap up their stop of a car quickly because school-age children would soon gather there to take the bus. That's what his lawyer is saying. And in the following moments, according to his attorney, an ICE officer shot Jimenez, a U.S. citizen and a father of three. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security said that at the time, Jimenez had, quote, attempted to run over officers by reversing directly at them without stopping, and that the shots were defensive. You and I have talked about this quite a bit since this administration has decided to deploy ICE agents without any apparent plan, no public plan. But I've oftentimes said that ICE agents are not trained in local policing, and it seemed to me to be just a matter of time until we were going to see somebody get hurt. Is that beginning to happen?
Well, first of all, congratulations to the LA Dodgers. In the space, it has to be where it is. Start with some good news, and then we'll sort of flow from there. The second thing is that it's already happening. It's already occurred. We've already seen a number of incidents. We've seen over 100 U.S. citizens arrested, 170 actually, and a number of them shot, detained, shackled, freedom impinged upon for days. So what we're looking at this situation is, first, let's take a broader view of what enforcement looks like, because last week there was a purge of a lot of upper ICE officials in DC. So the nature of the ICE administration has changed because they've invited other people from other enforcement agencies into ICE, such as CBP, where their limitations and constitutional understandings are much different than ICE, because CBP is a border agent controlled, not an internal agent. And so forth, the training is much different with regards to how they view the constitutional rights of an individual within the United States. So there are a couple of things to think about. Let's start factually with the story, because the story starts with an individual pulling over to tell ICE officers or enforcement, I'm not sure if they're all ICE yet, we'll see once we have the final footage, to say, listen, could you wrap this up because kids will be here soon? That doesn't sound like someone to me who would then throw their car into reverse to try to run over some officers, regardless of what's said, because in that moment, this person was concerned about what was supposed to happen next, which was the appearance of children, right? And being a father of three. So the story is inconsistent from DHS, which it has been inconsistent for the last few weeks. There are a couple of things to know. As a lawyer, generally, these things are not litigated on Twitter or in the press. So if something happens, there's a recording, and the government says nothing. They might have an official statement, but they definitely don't tweet anything out on Twitter. They may confirm it happened or say it didn't happen or say we're investigating it. For the last 2 weeks, Every time there's a news article claiming that ICE did something inappropriate, DHS responds with their argument on the internet, which is a violation, I would say, of the use of the government property and procedure, but also it hurts them in court cases that will follow later because they've already said something with authority that has not been proven in court yet. So therefore, it could come back to harm them. We've already seen this sort of happen in some of the other cases around the globe. So one, it's an over-enforcement because no one had to get shot. There's nothing in this that says that there was deadly harm involved, other than the allegation of the officers, which there have been at least 4 cases in which officers have made assertions that were not true. So why was the gun involved? 2, there were children around, and the concern was about children and children's safety. So the ICE officer just said, you know what, didn't know what, let's just resolve this later and keep it moving. 3, they're in California. And in California, these officers only have authority with regards to immigration enforcement. They didn't know, or maybe they did know this was a United States citizen. Either way, it wasn't an immigration issue. So therefore, there should have been no enforcement involved at all. So there should have not have been any shooting. If they had a problem, they should have called the California police officers to come and enforce the issue that they had with this individual, which seems inconsistent with the facts to me. So for me, the math ain't mathin'. And I need to see more facts in the video because it doesn't sound consistent that a father of 3 all of a sudden would go from saying, could you move out of here for the safety of the kids, to let me reverse my car and try to run you over.
And speaking of the math, not math thing, speaking of these facts just not adding up, the LA Times is also reporting that lawyers for Jimenez, they offered this counter narrative, and they said that Jimenez reversed because he was afraid, then was unnecessarily shot in the back of his right shoulder where a bullet still remains lodged. The agent's actions were unreasonably aggressive and a violation of their own policies. That's what his attorney's saying. Talk to us about the significance of Jimenez being shot in the back, not in the front, but in the back. That to me seems to sort of raise the standard for DHS, saying that, we were operating in a defensive posture, no?
Well, with the facts in this case where they said that he had put his car in reverse, that might speak to they felt like the car is a deadly vehicle, that they might have felt harmed. I don't know the distance, right? So we have to see the distance. And I will say, being an African-American male, that there are situations when you encounter law enforcement and you talk to them in a certain way and it goes about, you are nervous. So I don't know if he got in the car, mini cars, I don't know what kind of car it was, like for a minute. I don't know if he just went, a quick jerk back and then forward. Hard to say from these facts exactly what happened. But actually, it's not hard to say, because if someone would have gotten their car and threw their car in reverse with the intent of harming you, the car would have been in reverse and hit you at that time, because there would be skid marks, right? If you're going to back up on someone, it's going to be like, you're not going to bump into someone, you're going to rapidly back into them. So a little bit more consistent with someone getting their car, being askew and trying to do things different than what they were trying to do before. So it does speak to something that he was shot in the back. It does speak to something he was shot at all, right? Because even if you are behind the vehicle, unless it's moving fastly, how do you have enough time to actually angle a shot at the individual? All it seems too quick to me to say that this was something, in an instance when you think it's deadly force, how close were you to the car? Because it wouldn't be that deadly if you're that close to the car. And if they were moving farther away, then how'd you have the time to get the exact shut off? So once again, to me, just from what I've seen, right, in life, in my experience, and from Law and Order, take it all in, use your TV analysis, it doesn't seem to be adding up to me.
Yeah, and talk to us about the significance of this being a U.S. citizen that was shot in the back. A lot of our leaders, learners, and listeners are tapped in, and there are some people that actually believed a year ago when Donald Trump was running for president that when he said that he'd have the largest mass deportation effort in U.S. history and that they would prioritize violent criminals. This is yet another example of someone that does not appear to have been a violent criminal.
Well, let's tie a couple of things together because I think it's really important to think about a holistic picture. Last week, you have the Secretary of Homeland Security saying that no U.S. citizens have been detained in any way during the enforcement of these procedures. So that's just a blatant lie. So that's just clear, right? We've already said there was 170 people. There are cases out there across the board. We've already established that under our constitutional laws with regards to ICE, they have no enforcement of United States citizens, only immigration law. I mean, that's just clear. That's a black and white issue, right? They can't arrest people for state crimes or for federal crimes. Then let's take it, because in context, it really matters. We have a 60 minutes interview last night with the president, which I did not watch. I only saw clips of, in which he says he feels like enforcement hasn't gone far enough, right? He feels like his hands are tied. That's the backdrop you have to these officers who are ill-equipped and ill-trained with regards to constitutional rights. Many of them appear to have been hired on Monday and put on the streets on Wednesday, which tells you the level of training they have received, and told that their main job is to get the numbers up, right? So it speaks highly to the lack of training these individuals have, the lack of concern they have for United States citizens, and the disregard they have for the Constitution. We have heard this week that allegedly there are a number of people who do some fraud with food stamps. We don't know how many numbers there are, but the answer from the leaders have been, let's cut off food stamps to everybody if there's a problem. Why isn't that same logic applied to these ICE officers and saying, wait a minute, we've detained United States citizens, we've shot US citizens, we need to shut this down until we can figure it out and launch it the correct way. That's the problem. No one is having an accountability. Congress is not stepping in. States haven't found their footing yet. So the only thing left of many of these individuals are a tort claim, because actual federal claims against the individual officer have been weakened by the Supreme Court. So you have the Supreme Court saying, listen, if they speak Spanish, that's reason enough for you to get them. You have the executive branch saying, if you do something wrong, I got you covered because this is your act of law. And the Supreme Court said there's no recourse for that here. So the only thing these individuals now can do is sue the state of California.
When we come back, we're going to pick up on that thread when we come back. ProPublica, a watchdog news organization, is reporting that the Department of Homeland Security wants states to hand over driver's license data for citizenship check. When we come forward, we're going to get the full scoop on that and more. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Alan Orr, our resident immigration rights attorney.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Former President Barack Obama says the country is in a dark place, blasting President Trump's immigration policies and claims of fake crime waves at a Norfolk, Virginia rally for Democrat Abigail Spanberger.
He's deploying the National Guard in American cities, claiming to stop crime waves that don't actually exist.
Obama also campaigned in New Jersey for Mike Sherrill in another tight governor's race. More than a dozen violations were reported on the first night of Black Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser's new juvenile curfew. The 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. rule, lasting through November 5th, follows recent incidents of disorderly teen behavior, including a large Halloween crowd in Navy Yard. Rapper Nicki Minaj is thanking President Trump for speaking out on Christian persecution in Nigeria, calling his remarks powerful. Trump warned of cutting aid or military action if attacks continue. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Mid-City crash on the 10 eastbound past Western, left lane blocked. Delays out of Santa Monica leaving 20th Street. Sherman Oaks, a stall for the 405 northbound before Ventura Boulevard. Right lane's blocked here. Overall slowing, backing up from just about the 10 freeway and in Seal Beach. A crash on the 405 northbound before Seal Beach Boulevard. They're clearing it out of the two right lanes. Delays from Golden West to 22 westbound, backing up from Beach Boulevard.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and most of all, being known, loved, and protected. There are thousands of kids waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are 5-2 after beating the Miami Heat Sunday night 130-120. 29 points for Luka Doncic, 26 for Austin Reeves. The Lakers may have found their instant offense off the bench. Forward Jake LaRavia, signed as a free agent in the offseason, dropped 25 in 35 minutes. LaRavia made 10 of 13 shots and also had 8 rebounds and 4 steals. It's the second time LaRavia has scored 25 or more off the bench. He had 27 against Minnesota last Wednesday. The Clippers are in action tonight. They play Miami at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Top 5 college football teams in this week's top 25 poll: Ohio State at number 2, Tavis Smiley's Indiana Hoosiers, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. Third straight week for Indiana as the nation's number 2 college football team. 6-2 Jackson State moved up from number 20 to number 19 in this week's NCAA Division I AA poll. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you missed the recent Left Coast Forum, then you really missed out. An insightful presentation from Professor Richard Wolff, a call to action from LA Mayor Karen Bass, an insider's view on Prop 50 and the government shutdown from Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager-Dove, and as usual, Dr. Cornel West brought down the House with a powerful closing keynote. And many of the plenary sessions were standing room only. Check out our social media posts for photos and video of what you missed at the Left Coast Forum and make plans to attend one of our upcoming events. Our next Altadena Town Hall is Thursday, November 6th, 4 to 6 p.m. at Victory Bible Church in Pasadena. We're going to interrogate SoCal Edison's settlement fund and see what's really going on with this fire recovery program. And our KBLA Talk 1580 Community Health and Wellness Fair is Saturday, November the 8th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here in Lemert Park at Catch at Audubon Middle School. All the details about these upcoming events can be found at our website, KBLA1580.com. So thanks again to all those who supported the Left Coast Forum, and a special thanks to our partners this year: the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, Partnership for Growth, UTLA, LA Care Health Plan, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and the Liberty Hill Foundation.
First, they tried to erase our history.
Pentagon removed training material about the Tuskegee Airmen. Arlington National Cemetery removing histories that highlighted Black veterans from its website.
Then they tried to erase our jobs.
Black Americans will disproportionately bear the brunt.
Now they think they can erase our votes.
Steal 5 congressional seats, decimating Black and brown representation.
Enough is enough. I matter, my rights matter, and our future matters. That's why I'm voting yes on Prop 50. Prop 50 lets us temporarily redraw California congressional maps to counter the election rigging Trump is trying to pull off in Texas and other states. Californians across the state are stepping up and using the power of their vote to stop the madness. So vote yes on Prop 50 by November 4th, because we can't let them erase our history or our future. This ad is paid for by the NAACP and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Donald Trump has all but declared war on California, sending in the National Guard, blocking disaster relief, and cutting funds to our colleges. And now, he and Texas Republicans are trying to rig the next election by stealing congressional seats from Black voters in states like Texas.
They want to rig these elections, and they want the power that gerrymandering provides.
Seriously, look it up. But Prop 50 is how we fight back. It gives Californians the power to fight fire with fire and beat Trump at his own game. Prop 50 creates temporary emergency congressional maps that level the playing field and protect the power of Black votes. Not just in California, but across the country. Your vote matters, and the whole country is counting on California to lead. So use your vote to protect our power, our history, and our future. Vote yes on Prop 50 by November 4th. Ad paid for by Yes on 50, the Election Rigging Response Act, Governor Newsom's Ballot Measure Committee, Ad Committee's top funders, HMP for Prop 50, and Fund for Policy Reform.
Our communities have been through too much to let our voices be erased now. Prop 50 is how we push back against the rigged maps, the rising costs, and the attacks on our health care and our rights. I'm Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas. Join me in voting yes on Prop 50. Because we deserve to choose who speaks for us. Ad paid for by California for All of Us, supporting Prop 50. McKenna Ballot Measure Committee. Ad Committee's top funder, Faith votes yes on 50. Sponsored by LA Voice Action and Progressive Era Issues Committee, supporting yes on 50.
There's a lot of noise out there, so let's keep it simple for a moment. Donald Trump is trying to rig the next election by packing districts with Republicans to guarantee they win more seats. You follow me? If they succeed, Republicans will keep control of the entire government in 2026 and continue enabling Trump's runaway attacks on our rights. You still with me? California is the only state big enough and bold enough to stop him. If we vote yes and pass Prop 50, we can temporarily change California's congressional maps and fight back against the election rigging happening in Texas. Make sense? My mother told me that if a bully hits you, you hit him back. We can hit back by voting yes on Prop 50. The election is November 4th, and you can vote early now. The stakes are too high to sit this out. Stand up to the bully. Choose to fight back by voting yes on Prop 50 on or before November 4th. Ad paid for by Yes on 50. The Election Rigging Response Act, Governor Newsom's Ballot Measure Committee, Ad Committee's top funders, HMP for Prop 50 and Fund for Policy Reform.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, coming to you live from the NAACP Hollywood Bureau. This election eve, the NAACP is on their job. Tomorrow, they are going to be tracking some of the races across the country. So make sure you follow NAACP on your timeline to stay up to date as they're doing everything they can to protect the vote and also turn folks out to vote. Remember, your voice is your vote. We're joined this hour with Alan Orr. He's the founder of Orr Immigration Law. He's our resident immigration expert here. And Alan, when I saw this report from our friends over at ProPublica, I thought we really got a problem. For folks who are less familiar, the Department of Homeland Security says that it intends to add state driver's license information to a swiftly expanding federal system envisioned as a one-stop shop for checking citizenship. The plan is the latest step in an unprecedented Trump administration initiative to pool confidential data from varied sources that it claims will help identify non-citizens on voter rolls and tighten immigration enforcement and expose public benefit fraud. Do you expect there to be some lawsuits that are filed swiftly? I mean, this seems to be such an assault on our personal identifiable information, no?
Sure. So, I mean, I'm expecting lawsuits imminently. I think the most important thing to know is to factor in on one of the things you said, that this one is a little bit more about voting. While immigration is definitely in the mix, it's about voting, and it's going to sort of hurt and deter people from the ability to vote and verification for voting and challenging for voting across the board. The couple of dynamic issues here are that, as we know, driver's license, which is the issue they want to sort of do, is issued by states. And different states have different qualifications to issue driver's license. And after Real ID pass, some states have two different levels of driver's license that are issued that can demarcate whether someone's a citizen or someone's status issue within the United States. And the reason why states have two different levels of driver's license is because driving is a safety issue for the citizens within that state. And they don't want people to drive in the state that aren't licensed to drive in the state, whether they're licensed to be or whether they have a status in the country or not. So it is a health concern over a government issue because, as we know, states don't do immigration. And so states don't issue visas. And so this federal government has consistently been after those state databases with regards to individuals who may go in and say, I don't need a Real ID driver's license. I just want a driver's license so that I can drive, to get that information. And so now they're trying to pour into that information to be able to extract those names to a system to say, here are the people who are undocumented in the country, let's go collect them. So that's number one, to reach their number quota. Number two, they're relying on bad data. One of the things that we need to learn about technology is AI and Google and all those other things are only as good as the information that's put into the system. And since we know that state DMVs are not the highest level of quality for various reasons, there are going to be a number of typos and misnames and miscorrections. And when you merge 50 state databases into one place and someone has the name John Smith and they could be born within the same month, just think of the number of errors that will occur within that system. So, one, violation of federalism between what belongs to the state, what belongs to the federal government. Number two, violation of individual rights into this big database that should not exist, that most people say they don't want this big brother sort of phenom sort of happening across the board anyway. And number three, is just another way to try to exclude people from voting and to have this mass deportation that they said the 30 million people who are undocumented, but the only people they can pick up are moms and housewives and people doing everyday work to work.
Well, what confidence should folks have that if these lawsuits are filed imminently, if they're going anywhere? We know that earlier this year, DHS added millions of American Social Security data to the systematic alien verification for entitlements program, the SAVE system, allowing officials to use this tool to conduct bulk searches of voter rolls for the first time. And so that seems to be happening right now as we speak. What confidence should we have that any lawsuit would be able to change this?
So that's federal government and federal government, right? In the SAFE system, that's the Social Security Administration and the Immigration Services, both at the round table all the time in immigration anyway. It happens all the time. They were doing mismatch letters. What they're doing now is something that's state-based. And I think what happens with the elections tomorrow will speak to people with regards to how far the executive, well, let's talk about what happens with the election tomorrow and what happens at the Supreme Court. The arguments that are had on the Supreme Court Wednesday about tariffs will have a closer view of what the limits of the executive branch are, and maybe Congress will stand up. Wanting to get information from the state is not the same thing as having it. So therefore, it may be difficult in many cases for them to get that. We already know there's some connection between states and the federal government, because if you go through TSA, what do they ask for? Your driver's license. They sort of run through the system most time to sort of check to see if it's valid or not. But many of those things have changed. And those people who are going through that system, here's the prime reason, are people with real ID. Because after this last inclination, you can't fly with a non-real ID identification to different places. So it tells you what the goals are and how they're trying to game the system, to not do law enforcement, to just run the numbers. So this is basically the Minority Report, where they're going to just run information and go pull someone and say, listen, we think you're a criminal, we're going to go after you. And they have no initiative of evidence to sort of invade you on your Fourth Amendment rights in the first place.
How concerned are you, beyond folks that raise privacy concerns, and rightfully so, how concerned are you that using driver's license numbers in the SAVE program could lead to citizenship being wrongly flagged as non-citizens? We started our conversation today talking about a U.S. citizen who was shot in the back by ICE agents. It seems to me that relying on this data is going to be a smokescreen to allow more bad things to happen to innocent people.
100%. I mean, there's the reliability of this administration. How you do one thing is how you do everything, and they don't have a standard of quality or care for anything. So therefore, I have no doubt that there will be misinformation and misthings. I also think the volume of information is going to be overwhelming for them. And I really think that it's really surrounding a couple of things, which is this voter registration story of people sort of voting who don't have appropriate documentation, trying to prove that when it doesn't exist, and also sort of ramping up the immigration numbers to go to certain states to say, okay, now we have the addresses, let's go collect these people. But what it's going to do is push people to say, you know what, now I'm not going to get a driver's license, right? Move to a state, don't get a driver's license, you can't find me. So therefore, the safety of individuals who need people to be licensed to drive is going to go down in the United States.
We are on election eve. You have alluded to it a number of times in this conversation. What's your message to folks out there, folks that are immigrants, folks that have mixed immigration status families out there who actually believed that President Trump and the administration were going to prioritize the criminals first, and in the deployment of this mass deportation initiative have done so much more than that? What's your message to folks who are preparing to head to the polls tomorrow, or who may be on the fence about whether or not their vote matters when it comes to one of the greatest concerns that we're seeing, the mass deportation efforts, these ICE raids that are wreaking havoc in American cities?
So specific to the Latino community, you're the people who are under the guise. You're the people whose language is suspect. You're the people who are in the guise of ICE picking you up, and you having to prove who you are and your ability to be there. So you need to vote for your own consciousness. There's been a recent CBS poll that still shows a very close split between the Latino community in the United States with regards to whether they support this removal process or not. And let's just say this, you can remove people in a humane way, so it doesn't have to be like this. And if we're really doing the criminals, then why are we once again getting students and people who have been here for 20 and 30 years who are just doing a basic job? It just doesn't have to happen this way.
It doesn't have to happen this way. I always ask you to share any tips, tools, or resources so that our leaders, learners, and listeners know their rights. I've been impressed with some of the social media posts I've seen out there of people being documented as bad things are happening, and seemingly operating according to sort of know your rights protocol. What rights do you think are particularly important for people to note and remember at this particular moment?
Well, I think Black Americans and Black people of Hispanic nature, and you can be also thinking you're someone from the Caribbean, should know just your basic fundamental rights when you encounter a police officer of what you need to say and what you don't need to say. We sort of expressed there is the red card that you can Google that sort of goes over rights in general for everyone as citizens and your rights when being detained and arrested, but also that you want to sort of make a record of it, because as we've seen right now, if there is no record, the government's going to tell the story of your demise or exactly what happened in that situation. So as soon as something happens, start recording it. And if they say you can't record it, then say, am I under arrest? If they say you're not under arrest, then you need to just leave the situation and document everything. So that's the safest space to be. Always remember, it is better to arrive alive, to go through whatever you need to go through. If they're going to arrest you, let them arrest you, and then you have to sue them later. But there's no reason to flee or have a fight or an altercation with an ICE argument at this time, because Secretary Noma said, ICE officers, if you slap them, they're going to shoot you. So let's not go down that lane.
And especially as folks head to the polls, Alan, I know there are a number of folks who may be feeling uncomfortable. We don't know, what armed forces we might see at polling places across the country tomorrow. But what is your advice to folks who may be feeling a little intimidated about going to the polls, not knowing who might be there waiting for them?
Just know that many people before you went to the polls under a much different circumstance for you to have the right to do that. So even as a foreign national, specifically in California, there was so much of a Mexican movement for people to get the right to vote and citizenship out there, and to be seen that you need to show up anyway. Don't let that deter you. Record it. Prove your right to be in that space. Don't feel as if you need to make yourself be small in a place where you belong. Many of the people today realize that they're paying taxes to these local communities and states, even when they're undocumented. But when you're a citizen, this money that the government says they're withholding, it's your money. So understand that this is your government. So you should use that right to go and vote, because that's the most important voice you have.
Alan, if folks have any specific questions about their own cases for you or for other lawyers who specialize in immigration law, where can they go?
They can go to AILA.org, and you can find a lawyer on AILA.org. There's also some public-facing information, general rights stuff, and that I said before with the red card, but also a great resource is the American Immigration Council. They have a lot of information with regards to immigration on each state, as well as resources you can use to find yourself in a better position, depending on if you're looking to obtain status or if you have status and you're looking for the next step.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Our thanks to Alan Orr, our resident immigration law expert. When we come forward, it's time for the quiet part out loud. And look, Donald Trump, he said a lot of things last night, but one of the things he didn't talk about is why he's threatening a military intervention in Nigeria. We'll explain all of that and more when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Thank you, Alan.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
First, they tried to erase our history.
Pentagon removed training material about the Tuskegee Airmen. Arlington National Cemetery removing histories that highlighted Black veterans from its website.
Then they tried to erase our jobs.
Black Americans will disproportionately bear the brunt.
Now they think they can erase our votes.
Steal 5 congressional seats, decimating Black and brown representation.
Enough is enough. I matter, my rights matter, and our future matters. That's why I'm voting yes on Prop 50. Prop 50 lets us temporarily redraw California congressional maps to counter the election rigging Trump is trying to pull off in Texas and other states. Californians across the state are stepping up and using the power of their vote to stop the madness. So vote yes on Prop 50 by November 4th, because we can't let them erase our history or our future. This ad is paid for by the NAACP and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
California, this is your moment. The special election is November 4th, and your vote helps decide your future, your community, and your state. Drop your ballot at a secure drop box. Visit an early vote center or mail it. Your participation powers democracy. Every ballot makes a difference. Tell a friend to do the same. Sign up at where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov to track your ballot. Make your voice count. Don't delay. Vote today. A message from the California Secretary of State.
Our communities have been through too much to let our voices be erased now. Prop 50 is how we push back against the rigged maps, the rising costs, and the attacks on our healthcare and our rights. I'm Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas. Join me in voting yes on Prop 50. Because we deserve to choose who speaks for us. Ad paid for by California for All of Us, supporting Prop 50. McKenna Ballot Measure Committee. Ad committee's top funder. Faith votes yes on 50. Sponsored by LA Voice Action and Progressive Era Issues Committee, supporting yes on 50.
First, they tried to erase our history.
Pentagon removed training material about the Tuskegee Airmen. Arlington National Cemetery removing histories that highlighted Black veterans from its website.
Then they tried to erase our jobs.
Black Americans will disproportionately bear the brunt.
Now they think they can erase our votes.
Steal 5 congressional seats, decimating Black and brown representation.
Enough is enough. I matter, my rights matter, and our future matters. That's why I'm voting yes on Prop 50. Prop 50 lets us temporarily redraw California congressional maps to counter the election rigging Trump is trying to pull off in Texas and other states. Californians across the state are stepping up and using the power of their vote to stop the madness. So vote yes on Prop 50 by November 4th, because we can't let them erase our history or our future. This ad is paid for by the NAACP and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Donald Trump has all but declared war on California, sending in the National Guard, blocking disaster relief, and cutting funds to our colleges. And now, he and Texas Republicans are trying to rig the next election by stealing congressional seats from Black voters in states like Texas.
They want to rig these elections, and they want the power that gerrymandering provides.
Seriously, look it up. But Prop 50 is how we fight back. It gives Californians the power to fight fire with fire and beat Trump at his own game. Prop 50 creates temporary emergency congressional maps that level the playing field and protect the power of Black votes. Not just in California, but across the country. Your vote matters, and the whole country is counting on California to lead. So use your vote to protect our power, our history, and our future. Vote yes on Prop 50 by November 4th. Ad paid for by Yes on 50, the Election Rigging Response Act, Governor Newsom's Ballot Measure Committee, Ad Committee's top funders, HMP for Prop 50, and Fund for Policy Reform.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Auntie Maxine. Yes, your Congresswoman, Maxine Waters. And I have an urgent message for you. Why we're voting yes on Proposition 50. We've been through a lot of fights together, and each day it seems the fight gets more urgent. Have you heard Trump's latest scam? He's using Texas Republicans to rig next year's midterms. Trump started this fight, and he thought we would let him break the rules. But just like we always have, we'll fight back. Californians are leaders, and we won't let anyone run over us. That is why we have to vote yes on Proposition 50. It gives us the power to temporarily redraw California's congressional maps to stop Trump's attempt to steal a Republican majority. Stand up and vote with me. Vote yes on Proposition 50 on or before November 4th.
Ad paid for by Yes on 50, the Election Rigging Response Act, Governor Newsom's Ballot Measure Committee, Ad Committee's top funders, HMP for Prop 50 and Fund for Policy Reform.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
It's time for the quiet part out loud. The Griot's reporting that Nicki Minaj thanks Trump for addressing the alleged persecution of Nigerian Christians and is facing a backlash. There's at least one person on board for President Trump's recent remarks regarding Christians in Nigeria. On Saturday, Nicki Minaj shared her feelings of gratitude after the president took to Truth Social to condemn what he called the persecution of Christians in the African nation. Quotes, reading this made me feel a deep sense of gratitude. That's how Nicki Minaj began in a post resharing the statement on X. She said, quotes, we live in a country where we can freely worship God. No group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion. We do not have to share the same beliefs in order for us to respect each other. She continued that numerous countries all around the world are being affected by this horror, and it's dangerous to pretend we don't notice. Thank you to the president and his team for taking this seriously. God bless every persecuted Christian. Let's remember to lift them up in prayer. That's what she said in response to allegations of Christians being persecuted in Nigeria. If you are a little less familiar with what's going on there, and you're wondering, well, why is Trump threatening military intervention in Nigeria? It's worth noting that in his post on Truth Social, Trump said, quotes, radical Islamists are responsible for the mass slaughter, and warned that if the Nigerian government failed to stop the killings, Washington would immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and could go into their guns blazing. That's what he said. His statement reflected this renewed domestic political pressure to appear tough on the marginalization of the persecution of Christians abroad, a theme that resonates strongly with parts of the right-wing evangelical base. But the question is, do Christians face a particular security threat in Nigeria? Well, Nigerian officials, they say that they're pretty secular. It's officially secular, but almost evenly divided between Muslims and Christians, 53 to 45%, with the remaining population practicing African traditional religions. Violence against Christians has drawn significant international attention and is often framed as religious persecution. However, most analysts argue the situation is more complex. We'll talk a bit more about this in our next hour. When we come forward, you're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is urging Senate Republicans to scrap the filibuster to end the government shutdown, blaming Democrats for its second month of gridlock.
You know, they've never had this. This has happened like 18 times before.